Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 257. My name is John Morgan. Cold coffee is with me.
Wait, I'm coming all the way from the other end of the palatial grounds.
Expansive grounds, sir. Well, listen, I mean, we should say, as I look out upon the palatial grounds of the Casa de Cold Coffee estate, it is 72 degrees outside in Las Vegas on a February afternoon.
I wore a sweatshirt when I left the house earlier because I thought it would be a little bit cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately as I got in my car, I was like, I made the wrong
unnecessary
fashion decision.
I'm telling you, I know there are other wonderful places in this fine country of ours. We've been lucky enough to travel around and see a lot of it. Mm-hmm. But when it is 72 degrees on a February afternoon, you, sir, have picked a fantastic place to live.
I love it. I've had the heater off the past few nights. It's got a little nippier.
Open the window and get a little
fresh air?
But
I haven't opened the window.
Okay.
Like, I do like to do that, though, every once in a while, but I haven't done that yet. But, yeah, because it's funny because NV Energy sends me a notice when it tells you kind of how your bill's going. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude. This is how I hear it in my head.
That's how the bill comes.
Like, dude, you're doing really good. You spent less money this month than last year. You know, blah blah blah. And I'm like, and I was thinking about it, I was like, that's right. I was like, I've been able to keep the heater off.
That's nice.
You know, so this is when you make it all up because I do that equal payment thing where you pay.
Yeah.
And since it's been so warm early, I'm like already in like the credit area. So like I've already paid more than what my bill actually is.
That is one hidden cost of living in Las Vegas that people don't talk about much. Yeah. If you don't watch it during the summertime, your electric bill can get real expensive.
Really, really bad. Especially this is an older house that I rent, and it can get real bad.
To get like $250, $300, something like that.
Easy.
Oh.
My equal payment thing is $250.
Are you serious?
Something. In some months, it could easily be like $400.
Holy cow! I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah, this is not a very energy efficient house.
No, it is not.
And it's like an older AC unit and stuff. That's why
I'd be like one of those old people. Like, don't you touch my thermostat?
That's how I am. That's how I am. I have that shit cranked up pretty high. That's why I spend so much time out back and like in the pool and stuff like that. That's why the pool makes so much sense.
That's funny.
But you have to have it on. You can't go without air conditioning here.
No.
That's the flip side of what we're experiencing right now. When it gets to the summertime, you have to have a decent AC system or you literally will melt.
That is true. Like when people's ACs go out and stuff, like you can't even stay in your house at night. Like it's crazy.
No,
you gotta
even
go
by
somewhere.
law, like if you rent like a place like this, they have to within like that day or 24 hours, they have to have somebody.
Is that
come.
right?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. By law, you literally can melt. It gets so hot in the houses, it's just unbelievable.
Brutal. So.
But it's nice now.
It's nice now. Now July or August is when we start telling you about how the summers you're ready for them to be done. Listen, just quick health update for those who've been following along. Of course, you've been recovered for surgery. I got to say, man, you're moving a lot better. It's been
moving a lot better. I'm sleeping better. I went and did a wound check today. So what that is she's really nice. She's super cute too. So that
helps.
That doesn't hurt. She actually was checking the way that it's healing. So there's still portions of it that are sort of scabbed, but as the scab's starting to like come up, she was taking like little tweezers and cutters and like clearing up the part and just double checking.
Hopefully nobody's eating right now.
I know. Well, she's the one that pulled the staples out. Like she's pretty badass. I mean, this girl's fucking sharp, man.
She's probably like super demented in her head. Like she's like, I love wounds
and blood and pus. I mean, that people that enter the medical fields are one of the ones that they're a special breed. I mean, I think a lot of us say like, oh, I could probably do that. I could watch stuff, but until you immerse yourself in that, and until you're in there, like, I don't think I could go in there. Like, if I saw like a surgery and like watching like what happened to me, I probably would pass out.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it.
I'd probably pass out.
Like moving around the organs and stuff. And I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
Like blood doesn't freak me out. I mean, obviously, like in the industry we work in, we see a lot of blood, and we see like superficial wounds. You know, we see some cuts and some. You know, we've seen some nasty ones up close, and every now and then you'll have like those interviews where like somebody's talking, and like all of a sudden like a cut just opens up and like blood starts coming out. And stuff.
What I think's weird about that too is like I think when you watch a fight, your brain's in a certain point where it's not shocking to you. And the reason I say that, there was an instance once, and plus I've been drinking, so this might have affected it. This was years back in Columbus. A girl I was dating, her and some other friends went to a music concert, and at some point, my girlfriend was little wasted and like tripped and like split on her forehead, like got a
okay.
cut. So I ended up going to the hospital. Yeah, I went to the hospital to see it. And, just like you think, you're like, oh, you see blood, it's not a big deal. But when I was watching them start to, like, stitch her up and shit, I got queasy and almost fainted.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, I got to go to the restroom. And I walked to the restroom, and I remember starting to stumble. And it wasn't like I was, like, wasted. I had a couple drinks.
Right.
But it just threw me off.
That's funny.
But, like, you're just like what you say. I remember when Roy Nelson got his head split open. I literally was looking at his skull, like interviewing him, and it was like not a big deal at all. I was like, this is literally the same situation that happened.
It's too funny.
Years earlier, but I got like I just wasn't expecting. I wasn't in the mindset for it, and it got to me. So I think when we watch the fights, we're expecting violence, we're expecting blood. We're anticipating it. We're actually hoping for it in some cases. So I think your body treats it differently. So maybe people that work in the medical field.
Same thing.
It's like that for them. They're just their brains are always working in that mode, so they're always expecting it. Just like EMTs and emergency responders have my utmost respect, but they're always on, and some of the shit that they run into.
Because they show up to like accident scenes.
Oh my lord!
Yeah.
Like
body parts and stuff.
Unreal. The resolve of people that do that sort of shit. Like I don't think I could do it at all.
Well, glad you tuned into the MMA Roadshow where we just
MMA
keep it light.
Just talk about.
We just keep it light and talk about fights.
But back on the health thing, I feel good. I'm sleeping better. I'm in less pain. When we actually, and you're going to hear audio from this, when we were at Mandalay Bay doing the soon-to-be infamous interview with Jospeh Fabia.
I was going to say, we might as well just jump into it and start there.
I stood there for so long that was the longest I had stood up and standing. So, and in terms of me being able to get back to working and doing like a typical work day, that was the longest I had stood behind a camera.
Right.
And it got to a point because that interview went so damn long that my back did start hurting where I was like, I got to sit down for a second just to relieve the pressure. But it felt good to be back at it. So I know I'm trending in the right direction.
That's good. Still sitting out next week. Not going to be a part of 248. You're going to help from home, obviously.
Help from home.
But not going to be on the grind. But it looks like you're going to be healthy enough to go do the Columbus show at the end of the month.
That's the goal. I mean, it's one of those things that, I mean, it hasn't been back to Columbus in so long. So I want to go back and see a UFC event in, I assume it's probably going to be Nationwide Arena. Mm-hmm. So I want to go back, see an event there where I used to go watch the Blue Jackets play, where I've watched OSU basketball play on some game, where I've watched concerts. And I'm hoping to get to see some friends and, just go back and see some of the old hangs, drink at some of the old watering holes. So that's the goal, is to get myself back in working order that I can go and work at an event that's not going to be as crazy as like a Habib Tony event, where it's going to be nonstop. There's going to be a lot of media. This is going to be, it'll be a little bit slower. Still going to be some really good fights, but it'll be less stuff going on.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good event to kind of stretch the legs and see where I'm at physically when getting back to the grind. So.
No doubt. Well, it's good to have you back at full speed. And you touched on the interview. I just think we got to start there. I mean, we're going to get to the fights this weekend. Of course, the UFC is out in Norfolk, Virginia this week. UFC on ESPN Plus 27. The flyweight title is on the line. We'll get into that card. The young Mike Bond is out there and been handling stuff. But I mean, we just got to talk about it because I'll be honest with you, it happened yesterday. You and me went down to the MMA Junkie Radio studios. Goes and George were kind enough to open the facility for us there and let us use their space, and taped an interview with Jospeh Fabia and Diego Sanchez. And this kind of came out. Mike Bond actually helped set this up as well. I think Mike had started communicating with Jospeh Fabia around the time of all the Rio Rancho controversy, and of course then our story came out about the infamous death hold that he was teaching against Michael Chiesa and all that. And I think they started having some back and forths via social media first, I think via the Instagram account, if I'm right, and then ultimately found out they were going to be in Las Vegas. They came out to have some meetings with the UFC, and they actually said, hey, man, we would love to sit down with you and do an interview on camera and let us get our words out and let the world see it. And I will say this. I will say this. I actually respect the fact that they have been as accessible to the media as they have. I mean, they did Luke Thomas, they did Ariel Helwani. I saw they did the Schmo while they were in here. They've done a lot of different interviews. And, I mean, they get the fact that the world is not exactly on their side. I mean, it's a lot of controversy. It's a lot of criticism. I will give them credit for the fact that they want to sit down and they want to speak and they want to address the questions and the criticisms. And, certainly we put the full interview up. The full interview is on video on YouTube. So if you want to watch the full 44 minutes, you can watch that. Cole Coffey was filming it and did the edit there. And so I think he was a little frustrated because they were looking at the wrong camera at some points.
They were, but I was like,
what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? I was kicking myself. I was like, I should have just said, hey, if you're going to look at the camera, make it this one. But I'm not trying to coach a couple people or whatever.
Show.
And I had no idea that they would not look at you and decide to speak to the audience. They completely broke the fourth wall. But it was just interesting. Yeah. It was a little frustrating, but it was a little long.
So if you look at the edit and you see that it looks like their eye line is just a little bit off.
Yeah.
That's why.
I just didn't want to do the wide shot because it was so wide. And I was like, if I push into that, it's going to look even worse. So I just did what I could do.
There's the frustrations of a professional videographer.
I was very frustrated.
But, the interview was interesting. So if you want to watch the whole thing, and certainly I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a little bit familiar with Fabia by now. He's been out there. I did think I did think that we got some good stuff out of Diego. Because a lot of the interviews I've seen Diego be rather silent, to be honest with you. And
you got good stuff out, and you let them sort of say their piece. And there's the reason why I know a lot of people might be like, dude, it's 44 minutes. We're never going to watch 44 minutes. Just give me the highlights. But there's a reason why we do put the full thing out, because a lot of times, and even especially in this instance, they even said something there that, people are always cherry picking. They're always taking this thing of what I say, and they say this thing. And that's come back over and over, throughout all time, when some subject of an interview is like, you're taking my words out of context, you're taking this. So the best way to combat that is you put the start to finish out there, and then anybody that watches it, they can't say, oh, well, you're taking this out of context. You only said this. Now, we put it all out there so you can hear every little bit. And then we go back after the fact and cut down a little bit more digestible nuggets. And that's what you're going to hear here. But that's the reason why there's a 44-minute video is there, that you can actually see and hear everything that took place without us going back and putting any sort of censorship or whatever you want to call it. We didn't twist anything. All I did was cut from one camera to the other.
Yeah.
I cut nothing out audio-wise. Everything's there. All I did was cut the camera shot between. That's the only editing I did.
They do believe, and that's, when I say they, I mean, I guess I assume that Fabia speaks for both of them. Fabia expressed it stronger, but Diego did as well. But Fabia more so that. I mean, they do believe that people are kind of censoring their messages.
AstroTurfing them.
AstroTurfing, which I'll be honest with you, I am not socially hip and conscious.
I had no fucking clue what he was talking about.
So I
had the idea of what he was trying to say, but I was like, I've never heard that term used as for somebody like making you look bad, I assume. I haven't looked up to see what the Urban Dictionary says. Urban Dictionary might say some other nasty sort of meaning for what AstroTurfing is. It's filed under the rusty trombone somewhere. But I can see where they were taken to the point where they feel like people have been taking what they say out of context this whole time and using it. So that's why there's a 44-minute video out there that we normally wouldn't put something that long. We do like to try to put the full things out just for that reason, that a fighter or somebody can't say that we took what they said out of context, but we will still go back and cut little morsels out of it, and that's kind of what
we're going to get to. But first, since you brought it up, let's just go ahead and take about
it. Is it Urban Dictionary?
All right, Urban Dictionary. Well, the first, if you Google it, the first one that comes up is, it says, the Urban Dictionary tells us AstroTurfing means creating the impression of public support by paying people in the public to pretend to be supportive. Now, I believe that's probably kind of what he was going with. Like, you're basically paying people to influence into seem like that's the public agenda when it's not actually the public agenda.
That's what I kind of took, and you'll hear it in the interview as well. I felt like that's what I was getting over and over from them, was that they felt that the UFC was putting their money behind a bad propaganda for them. So when I hear AstroTurfing, I'm thinking like, okay, that means they're digging you under the ground or whatever.
Right.
But AstroTurfing there just makes it sound like...
Well, hold on. There is an alternate meaning here.
This is the nasty one. This is the naughty one, right?
Now, if that's not what he meant, AstroTurfing, according to Urban Dictionary, also means a sex act involving rubbing a shaved head on a partner's vagina or anus for pleasure.
I knew there would be something in there. AstroTurfing. So it's a little bit rough?
I'm going to say he's going with the first one.
Probably.
I think that's what he was indicating. But so we have the whole thing out there, and it is. I mean, listen. I tried to keep it on track.
Ask Dana about AstroTurfing. Dana, they feel like you've been AstroTurfing them. Do you know what AstroTurfing is?
Goodness.
And then read him the two different answers to get his take.
Just in a press conference or something.
Just at a press conference.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, but
and then you'd ask it first. Though. That's how it would start. It would just be a shit show from then on.
I tried to keep it on track, and I think if you go watch the whole thing, I mean, I will say this. They did answer the questions I had. I mean, they did allow me to address everything. I mean, we talked about what was going on with the death move that he was teaching, that he warned about ahead of Michael Chiesa. We did go over and over and over about the game plan. I mean,
you might have asked over and over about the game plan.
It took a while to get the game plan. So I wanted to know, because the one thing I hadn't heard in the fight with Michel Pereira was, okay, fine, you've been criticized about your corner advice. We've heard that. You say, look, it's our code. Don't worry about it. What was the game plan? If you say you were capable of being Diego Sanchez's only cornerman and only coach, then what was your game plan? Tell me what it was. And now, it took me like 3 or 4 times of asking, but I will say, at some point they did get to a point where they were like, look, we kind of thought he would fade in the 3rd round. We'd seen him fade before, and we thought he'd fade in the 3rd round. And, Diego said himself, I know I'm a 3rd-round fighter. I know I'm still going to be there. I thought we'd be able to capitalize then. I probably made a mistake. We probably shouldn't have been a little bit more aggressive. Probably should have pushed it a little bit more. So, I mean, it did make me feel a little bit better that there was at least some game plan. But
I'd have to go back and watch, because I'm like, when did that part come out? I heard a whole lot of, well, he needs to get into his kill zone, and how am I going to tell him how to get into his kill zone, and he's got to do this, and I had a bad view, and blah, blah. It was a lot of dancing around the game plan without much game plan talk really coming out.
And I always say, don't say anything to somebody that you wouldn't say to their face, and I still believe that. If they happen to be listening to this for whatever reason, I'm more than happy to say this to Joshua.
They could easily go back and just listen to it too. I mean, they tried. Even Joshua tried to keep him on. He was like, "Okay, Diego, you tell him the game plan." And then Diego at a point was like, "Now you tell him, because you were the strategy."
Right.
And then I felt like they were handing it back and forth, but a lot of no strategy was really being talked about. And
I will say that not just in that instance, but in all instances, I think he would serve himself a whole lot better if he would just answer directly to questions, man. It's just he doesn't get out a single thought. Fabia does not answer anything directly, and he doesn't get out a single thought. And I think that really leads into why people have this opinion that he's a con artist, that he's a snake oil salesman, because he just – You ask very direct, specific questions, and you don't get direct, specific answers. And
I think some people's brains are wired a little bit differently as well. I think some people, when you're quick to the point, and you want and you expect a 13-word response. Some people, their brains, they kind of work a little more cyclical. They'll go off on a tangent, knowing that eventually they'll come back to the point that they want, but they want to go off on this other story. And I think sometimes people get lost when they go off on this tangent, and it makes it sound like they're just rambling, and you almost need somebody to kind of, which they were doing for themselves a couple times, where they would just reel each other in. So I appreciated that, and I could see where the like-mindedness of where both of them kind of realize at points that they kind of get lost in these tangents, so they would try to reel themselves back in.
Before we started recording, I don't know if you heard while you were setting up equipment, did you hear where Diego said, I have kind of noticed that sometimes I tend to ramble and I don't get my point across because I'm rambling
was that
a little
the point
bit.
where he was like, "Wait, don't give it out. Don't say too much.
Right,
Don't say too much."
right.
And they never really said that.
Yeah. But Diego himself actually said he said, I'm becoming aware that sometimes I don't get my point across because I'm rambling so long that I don't get the point across.
Yeah.
So to your point, he is realizing that.
And I think, that's probably why they get along so well, because it just seems like at this point in their lives, their brains are wired very similarly, where just talking about things, they allow themselves. It's kind of almost a very sort of, I don't know if Zen's the right way to think, where you just go where the flow, go where the energy, go where the thought pattern takes you,
right.
And you don't really set up strict guidelines. Okay, we're going to talk about this. Okay, well let's talk about it and let's see where it goes.
Hey man.
And then I was a big I've done a lot of hallucinogenics and things in my life, so I can see where I know where my brain, if I allowed it to go that route, could go back into that. And I think they find that kinship in each other, that they allow themselves. And I think with the martial arts and the way that they do stuff, it works, because I think Diego wants that in his life right now, and that's what he wants for his training. And unfortunately, for a lot of people that want to see the A plus B equals C, strict this is how training should be, where a lot of people are saying, well, I'm not seeing this from him, so obviously this can't be the right thing for Diego. But Diego's like, what is happening with what I'm getting from him is what I need in my life right now, and you'll hear that in these interviews.
I was going to say, so that's perfect, because we didn't want to play the whole 43 minutes here on the podcast, because that would,
we wouldn't have to record anything.
Yeah, we would just,
like, here you go.
Welcome to the MMA Roadshow. Thanks for listening. It'd be the easiest whatever, you know.
Just drank for 45 minutes straight.
Yeah, that'd be great. We just sit here and drink while they talk.
You sure we don't want to do that?
You know what? I have changed my mind. Let's tee up the whole thing. No, what we decided to do was I said, I'll grab one clip that stands out to me, and you grab one clip that stands out to you. So here's the one I grabbed, and this is from Diego. And basically, I got to a point where, we kind of went through everything. We talked about the Pajeda fight and what the strategy was, and we talked about the fallout, and we had talked about everything. And finally, I just said, look, Diego, let me ask you a question, man. I mean, are you open to evaluating what's going on in your camp? Everybody right now is worried that you're not getting what you need. This guy says he's got enough for you. Are you open to listening to other people, or should we just basically shut our yaps at this point because you've made your decision and this is the way you're going to go? And here's what Diego had to say. Let me ask you a question, Diego. Going forward, are you open to evaluating who's in your camp, who works with you, that sort of thing, or should the world know right now, guys? I made my decision. This is my guy. Just shut up and deal with it. This is how I'm going.
Yes. I could address that very easily. Joshua is my brother, my mentor, my guide, my manager, my trainer. And this has been the most disrespectful that my fans and the masses of the MMA community have addressed me in my career. Just throwing all the hits and all the traumas that I took in these 16 years in the UFC. All this trauma that I took, I paid the price for the experience to make my own decisions in what is best for me going forward. I have always been different than everybody else. And maybe that's why I've lasted so long. All right? I continue to thrive in a special, unique, unorthodox approach that has led me to Joshua. And what he's done for me outside of mixed martial arts is amazing, and you really should look into it and become aware of that. I'm sitting here in front of you. My face is not, I don't look like I'm going anywhere. I'm speaking healthy. And this is more than a fighting career, because Diego Sanchez, the UFC fighter, the identity, that's been done and dead. I am Diego Sanchez, the human being now. And so now that I step into this part of my purpose in life, understand that I'm making these decisions. I'm thinking about this. I'm putting my heart, my mind, my daughter and my mother and my father, the 3 people that I have to take care of. I'm doing everything in the best of my ability, in the best way that I can for my future. And that includes standing up to the bullies who were taking advantage of me and not treating me correctly. This is just what it is. I know that a lot of people around the world are suffering from these same things, whether it be at their job or whether it be on the playground. And they're not speaking up. They don't have the courage. I want people to see me and see something different. A new generation, a new era of people believing in themselves and not just listening to what the comments say.
Okay, so there's Diego Sanchez answering directly what he says. And, you know, what I take it, I mean, first of all, it's clear that he's set. This is the path that he's going down, at least for the time being. And I know that's not comfortable for everybody, but I don't know that you're going to be able to get into his head and talk him out of it. I do see some positives. I mean, they're talking a lot about his health, recognizing what he's been through, that, you know, continued wars and blows to the head are not going to be great for him. I mean, they talked a lot off camera about CTE and concerns that. I mean, they talked a lot on camera about CTE as well. So I find that as a positive. As you said, he's talking about, you know, the unique unorthodox approaches that works for him, you know, and saying that, you know, this works for him, Diego Sanchez, the human being, as he said, and the fact that he brought up his family and said, look, I am looking out for me, I am looking out for my family. That at least leads me to believe.
It's not the CTE talking.
Right.
He took a lot of offense to that. I think he's been hearing that a lot, and I can see where he probably is getting to the point where he's just like, fuck you all, like, I'm fine, you know.
Yep.
But man, it's hard to not think. I mean,
he's been through. I mean, 15 years in the UFC. He's been through.
And
wars.
Diego's he's not a point fighter. He is all.
No, he's
or
going right in
fighter.
there. But I guess my point, the reason this stood out for me is that I don't necessarily agree with the choice that he's making. I don't. I don't. But I do understand that Diego is a unique cat. There's no question about that. And it does sound like he's at least thinking about the right things when making this decision. It still concerns me, man. I still don't. I mean, like, the truth is, like, everybody's trying to, like, the truth is, everybody's trying to, you know, discount what Jospeh Fabia has established or what he's done, you know, what he says he's done and all this stuff. And to be honest with you, I don't care. I honestly do not care if he's worked with the paramilitary in South America. I don't care if he's, you know, the thing where he talked about walking the Holy Land barefoot. I don't even know what that means, and I don't care. I honestly, all I care about, I am an MMA reporter that cares about the MMA space, and I still don't know necessarily that he's qualified to be doing this. But I do understand that there is some kind of mental, psychological, spiritual connection with Diego. As you said, man, they have, and if Diego's happy with it,
yeah,
I guess who are we to say no?
And that's kind of it, you know, like, you want the best for him, you want him to get whatever, but ultimately at the end of the day, if somebody's happy, it's kind of like saying, like, that girl's not right for you, you really shouldn't date her, you know, but and then the guy's like, but she makes me happy, so it's worth it, you know. And who are we to say if somebody's happy and they're willing? You know, Diego's not going to fight forever. So if it means more to him to have this guy in his corner for his last fights or however many that are going to be, I mean, like, who are we to say stop it, Diego? I mean, we could always want the best for him, and if the performances keep going, I guess we could always revisit it. But if Diego feels that he is of sound mind and that he's making the decision, who are we to stop him? Because just like how we said, he's like, I've been in there with everybody. And he's been doing it longer than anybody. I mean, the guy is still active, and he was in Tough 1. I mean,
That's
like,
insane.
It's absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, maybe we're all the ones in the wrong, and he's the one doing it right. And it's just unfortunate that he fought a bigger, stronger guy. And like Joshua said, you know, like, if he fought somebody that was his size, maybe we will see the fruits of all their labor.
And it's funny, man, because I know that sounds odd. Like, I'm not trying to get out there and be like, it's not like they've convinced me, like, man, you know what? They have made me believe they've got the secret formula. They've got the recipe. No, like this dude Fabia has no business coaching anybody else in the UFC. Like nobody. I just like if he makes Diego satisfied and comfortable, like
Diego convinced me that he's happy with him around
that's
him.
What it see that's what that sounded like to me.
Yeah, I mean and who are we to argue with that? I mean we can say and we can believe, and we do believe, there are much better coaches that can give the technical advice of what Diego needs to be in there. But for Diego's overall spirituality, sense of being, which is more of what he feels that he is now as a fighter.
It's a huge part of it.
It's a huge part of what he is. You know, like he says, I'm not that same fighter. What I fight now is how he is as a person and how he. You know, so it's like saying that we want him to go in there and be a number one boxer, this and that, but he's like, no, my training has taken me that I just like to kick, so I'm going to kick. No, but you really have to work on your boxing. You need somebody to tell you how to box. I'm just happy kicking. You know, so who are we to tell him to change if that's what makes him happy?
Man.
But
I think that's where I stand right now, man.
It's rough. It's tough, but I guess you just got to. We all love Diego. We want the best in him, and I just hope that out of all this, that at some point he realizes that most people, or at least I think some people, are coming from a place of respect and love for Diego, and that's why people are asking the questions of who he's putting in his corner. It's not so much that they just want to attack this person in the corner. It's because people have they love Diego. And if you're listening to Diego, people love you, and that's where a lot of the questions and I think a lot of the concerns are coming. People are trying to come from a point of real concern and care, and they might not be doing a good job of it, or the ones that are just dicks are shining and are speaking a lot louder than the others. But most of I think what people are concerned and just want to make sure that the right thing so Diego doesn't get hurt.
That's it, man.
You know.
All right, you got to pick a little clip as well. I was really interested in hearing from Diego, and like I said, that part convinced me. I know that you had not necessarily listened to all the Fabia interviews the way I had, so I had heard a lot of what he had to say. But one part stuck out to you, and that was near the end here, and this is what Mr. Fabia had to say.
Let's just go back into this credential world. You come from a world where you lay down your respect because of a piece of paper, because of a past accomplishment that the person is riding on a horse into your fucking space. And you've been conditioned to do this, and this is why you chase pieces of paper. I'm in a different world, and I do not endorse killing trees to endorse yourself. I believe at moment for moment, you need to earn respect. Nobody given me the chance to earn it. And now you've been disrespectful. Now you're wondering why I'm speaking the way I'm speaking. When everywhere I go in the world, I don't use name dropping. I don't use pieces of paper. I actually go prove it to the people. And if you allow me to prove it, as I'm already here on this space and platform, I've already proven it. Again, history has already been made. You just might not want to accept it, and you're trying to rewrite it so the conqueror ends up looking like they conquered something. You cannot hurt me. I'm not in your world. I will go on helping people the rest of my life. MMA is not my feeder system. So I'm not at the mercy here, and this is why I have freedom to say the things that need to be said.
All right, so there he is, a little combative. Like I said, I wish he wouldn't ramble quite as much, and I wish he wouldn't be so angry all the time. But I think some of what he said here is, I mean, it's legitimate. It's so hard for me to say because, listen, I do not believe everything this guy says. I just don't, and I don't. But it's working. It's working.
You gave him, and it is working.
It's working for Diego. I mean, at least it's making Diego happy.
It's making Diego happy, but you gave him a chance to have a platform to vent, and that's what I felt like we got to see, because I feel it's, if you try to respond to a Twitter, or if you try to respond to an Instagram post or whatever, you can't get the raw emotion out there. And I think in some of the questioning and some of the stuff talking, he was tapping into these raw emotions that he's probably been dealing with. I think he feels like he's being attacked right and left, and
And
let alone being attacked.
And he is.
And he is. So you gave him a chance to kind of do it. And so that was his sort of like, hey, coaches, people that are coming at you, who are you to judge me? You know, we're basing things on a different set of criteria. You know, so, you know, I don't know. So I was glad that at least it felt like when he left, I felt like they felt that they had got to say what they at least wanted to say.
They got a fair shake.
They probably could have talked for at least another hour.
They definitely could have. I tried to, like, I was shooting for 30 minutes because I knew he could go forever. I was shooting for 30. We got to 44, I believe.
Yeah.
So like I said, if you want to listen to it all, the full thing is up on YouTube. You can also go to patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. The audio is all there as well. If anybody does watch it or listen to it all, I mean, I'd love to hear your feedback. I mean, definitely hit me up on Twitter at MMA Junkie John. My DMs are open, so you can send me a DM if you don't want to put it out publicly.
Slide right up in there.
You can slide right up in my DMs if you want to hit me there. If you want to do it publicly, I'm cool with that. But I'd be interested to hear feedback and what you guys thought. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you thought I did okay, if you thought I sucked, happy to hear about it because it was a unique experience to say the least. I don't think I've ever done an interview that long before, so pretty wild. All right, listen. If you like what you're listening to otherwise, outside of just that interview, you should do like our man Metalhead87 did. He went into the podcast app on Apple. I guess it's not iTunes anymore, right? It's just podcasts. And he said, "Great show, terrible beer," which kind of hurts my feelings a little bit.
That's awesome.
But he did give us 5 stars, so thank you, Metalhead87. He said, "These two jokers provide in-depth analysis and great interviews, all the while drinking the award-winning Pabst Blue Ribbon, just like we are right now. I've enjoyed their great commentary for hundreds of straight weeks. By the way, 257 consecutive weeks, never missed a single one. No holidays, no sick days, no nothing. And the and a half episodes are always the best. Plus, when the cantankerous Luke Thomas sings your praises, you know you're doing it right." I heard Luke. I'd heard from some people that Luke gave us a shout out, or at least gave myself a shout out. I don't know if he shouted out Cold Coffee. He probably did. Now that I think about it, it probably was all about
in
Cold
private.
Coffee.
He was probably like, "Oh, Cold Coffee," and that guy John.
So if you could do that, we would appreciate it. If you like the show, take the time. Make sure you subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a little feedback. Leave us a rating. That helps us out. Helps. What do they call it? The data that makes it
SEO?
The algorithm.
Yeah,
the algorithm. That's what it helps with. You can tell how great we are at business and stuff. But it helps us out.
We haven't quite reached the Joshua
Fabia on the
Joshua and Diego mind meld yet. I didn't know quite where you were going yet.
Not there yet, man.
We should be after 256. What is it? 257?
I don't know if we'll ever get to that connection level, brother.
But speaking of the Patreon,
I was gonna say, but that's if you like it. That's if you like what you're hearing. If you love what you're hearing, if you're like, I just can't get enough the MMA Roadshow, and if you want to hear those and a half episodes, make sure you go to patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. Get signed up there. That is now the exclusive home for all and a half episodes moving forward. But the good news is I'm going to do them every single week. Well, not every single week, but when there's major, when there's an event. But that is damn near every single week.
Yeah, what's the
so there may be like 3 or 4 weeks where we don't do it. But
out of a whole year.
Out of a whole year. But make sure we'll have those there for you. $3 a month is all we ask. If you sign up for $3 a month, I mean, that's nothing.
That's the roadie level.
You won't even notice
that.
Good
peoples.
It doesn't even notice to be a roadie. $3 a month, you'll get access to every single thing we put up there, anything we put. And by the way, this
week,
nudies,
Well, I haven't done the nudies. We're gonna come out with a new tier level for the nudies. You might see random medical pictures.
We have to pay you for that one to see our nudies.
We give all the money back to take a look at this. I dare you.
Just this past week, we did do and a half episode. Also, I had an interview with Mike Swick. I had a little conversation with Mike Swick over the phone. We posted that up there. It was a little too long for the podcast, so I caught up with Mike Swick out there at AK Thailand ahead of his commentary debut. Again, we got the full audio of this Jospeh Fabia, Diego Sanchez interview. So that's just for $3 a month. Now, there are increased tiers for $5 a month. What level is that?
That is the star, right?
And as a star, you get any questions you want answered. Just hit us up. It's guaranteed. You hit me up on Patreon.
Star?
Did you mess up the levels?
Probably.
We're terrible at this business stuff.
Well, I was actually trying to get the names together that we're going to say hello to.
$5 a month. You can hit me up on Patreon with anything you want answered on the podcast, we will handle it. We will address that topic. No questions asked. You're paying the money. You get to hear what you want to hear.
$5.
Thanks, producer. Jesus Christ. And then, if you want to go all out, $10 a month.
If you want to be a star.
That's a star. $10 a month. At that point, you're basically the boss. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about. If you got questions you want to send to fighters that you want, we'll tape that response for you and send it to you personally. We'll get anything you want. Now, I have put in a little caveat. If your question is going to get me slapped by a professional fighter, I am not going to ask it. But other than that,
I will ask it behind John's back and accredit it to John so he still possibly gets slapped.
Cold Coffee might actually ask it.
I do want to say, before we switch off, something we did when we first started in the Patreon was when we remembered to give some shout-outs and hellos to new additions. So the recent new additions, we want to send a quick shout-out to Abby, Adam, Dwayne, G, my man, John, Rains, Jonathan, Jose, and Thomas. Thank you all very much. You're all fucking rock stars in my book.
Much love to you all.
Thank you very much.
Patreon.com/The MMA Rebel Show. All right, UFC on ESPN Plus 27 is this week. Like I said, we will have a wrap-up of it on Saturday night on Patreon.com. The and-a-half episode will get done. But Jospeh Benavidez versus Deiveson Figueiredo in the main event. The vacant flyweight title is on the line. And I got to say, man, I'm really, really pumped up about this fight, man. Look, I've always been a big fan of the flyweight division. I know, it was nearly shuttered and all that, but I love it. And I'm excited for this matchup because it's incredibly intriguing to me.
That talk does seem like it's went away, right?
Yeah.
The whole shuttering. It's so funny. Like, for a while there, that's all there was. But now it's like nobody brings it up anymore. We're like, oh, no, we're good.
I am super excited for this matchup. I mean, Jospeh Benavidez, a longtime favorite of MMA Junkie and the Road Show, of course. I mean, he's been out here in Vegas forever. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He used to come into the Junkie radio studios back in the WEC days.
Yeah.
I think Goes even gave him the Joby One Kenobi nickname.
Yeah.
And,
even when I was with the UFC, I mean, whenever we needed somebody to kind of just do something, he's always smiling. He's usually always down for it. I mean, and yeah, he's always been great. Whenever you're like, hey, dude, I know you're tired. I know you're cutting weight. Can we do an interview? And he's like, yeah, let's do it.
He's always going to do it, man. It's super pleasant.
Pretty awesome.
I'm excited for this. I'm excited for him to get back, man. He's had, title opportunities along the way, and it didn't work out. And now he's getting another shot.
ACL surgery and injury to come back from that. Did you see that video? Or it was something that I think the UFC put out where it was like a day in the life. I think Gilbert was behind part of shooting it or whatever. But you got to see some of the treatment and stuff that the PI, and he really credits. And that's why we've talked so many times about fighters that have decided to move out here.
He was the first one that really took advantage of it.
He was one of the first ones, if not the first one.
Him and Francis
was the other one that comes to mind that really was like, I'm going to use it. And with him having that surgery and being able to come back, he came back so much quicker and stronger. And here he is fighting for a title after an injury that some people would probably question whether you should even continue with the sport, So good for him, man. I mean, but yeah, I mean, he's a longtime favorite, and it certainly helps. I've even tried. I volunteer at the Red Cross. I've been trying to get him and Megan to do stuff with the Red Cross.
That's funny.
And they're just like, yeah, man, just let us know. And I'm like, that's why you love Joby. He'll do whatever you need.
Both good people, and I mean, listen, the guy's been fighting at such a high level for so long that he really is starting to get into that discussion of best fighters ever to not win a UFC title. He's one of those guys. I mean, Michael Bisping was certainly one of those guys.
And he won it.
And he finally won it, I think Donald Cerrone is probably not going to get another title shot before it's said and done, so I think you'd have to consider him in the discussion. But Jospeh Benavidez is absolutely one of those guys, and now he's getting another shot. But I will say this, Deiveson Figueiredo is an absolute monster.
Yeah,
I have been a fan of this guy coming up. I mean, a flyweight with finishing power, and man, just the story. If you have ESPN Plus, which you'll need it to watch this event anyway, if you go watch the show Destined that previews this, man, he talks a little bit about just how humble his upbringing was, and how it stuck with him that his sister was crying from hunger, you know what I mean? And so he had to go make some porridge out of like some flour and water, it's just like insane. I mean, he comes from absolute nothing, and he is a killer, man. He is out for vengeance, and this is no This is no gimme fight for Jospeh Benavidez at all. I want to play a little bit of audio to hear from Jospeh Benavidez, kind of set the scene for this title fight, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. But I think he's in a really good place right now, and I want you guys to hear it firsthand, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. This is courtesy of the young Mike Bond, who's out there on the ground in Norfolk, Virginia. This is Jospeh Benavidez.
So Jonah, it's been
Hello.
A few years since you've been in a championship fight week. Does this feel pretty different than last time around, or?
Yeah, it feels different, but it feels similar to the fights in between. You know what I mean? It just feels, way different from the last title. I mean, so much happens in a span of even a training camp. So you put everything in there that I've gone through, just maturity, experience, fights in general, it's training in general. It feels way different, but it feels bigger, and I'm doing more, so and I know there's an accomplishment at the end, and I feel even that like inspiration and motivation as a competitor. But in general, it feels like another fight, where the champion, the ones before that, they really didn't. They felt like there was something, on a pedestal that was maybe taking too much thought and emotion or whatever it may be. But yeah, for the most part, it feels like another good fight week.
Yeah, different opponent, right? Not Demetrius Johnson.
Yeah, different opponent, like all that stuff. Like there's so much different about it, Like fight to fight, everything's different. The way you feel. Like I believe in a night, you fight 10 minutes later, the fight's gonna be different. So, put everything that I've gone through in that span of time. It's way different. Opponent, at the most simple basis,
What do you think is the most dangerous thing about Davidson?
He's aggressive and he hits hard and tries to hurt you on the feet. I mean, that's, I think, probably his best thing. Yeah.
Was there a point where it felt like maybe this wasn't going to happen?
Yeah, of course. Since going all the way back to my last loss to DJ, there was a point where, you thought about that and, hey, how the heck could this happen? But I always believed, and the people around me always believed. A lot of the times more than I did in myself, I would be like, dang, well, I got to beat up everybody. And then, after that, it was, I always just tried to keep the same faith. Like, I'd lose the fight, the second one, I just know, like, what, I got to beat everybody else up, or DJ has to lose, When DJ finally did lose, I was coming off of ACL surgery, and I lost as well. That, should have never happened. That I actually block out of my mind. It's weird I mentioned it. But then even then, I'm making up, I know the faith and the conviction, like there's these roundabout ways, like, well, this could happen. And then, at least the guy that, even though I lost, the guy that, beat him, I had just beat, that's great. All you gotta do is get a few. We already have a rivalry. And then, the thing with him happened, getting another belt. And it was just like, there was so much turning. But yeah, I always just kept the faith. And my wife just, like, she knows me so well and believes in me so much, and was always just like, look, your journey's always just been like funky and wavy and all the way through, and like that's just like who you are and like how you do things. I don't know why, like, but you're gonna accomplish what you need to do. It's just sometimes a hard way or a different way in general. And I was always like, yeah, that makes sense. And then like I get this fight, and then like, different way. It's on a freaking leap year day, which is like rare and unique. And I'm just like, okay, like she was right. It all makes sense. So yeah, I just, in a way, I looked at every way it could happen and was comfortable with it. Like the things I couldn't control, like the division being gone and just like this not happening. But I controlled everything I could, which I'm getting so much better at. But at the same time, I always believed. But yes, I came to peace with every way that, the thing could go.
Obviously, Davidson's a dangerous guy. He's ranked third. But is it frustrating at all that it's not Henry? I mean, you've got a history. You've got the win over him.
No, honestly, not at all. It's honestly refreshing. This is like beautiful. We're like in a quiet place. It's peaceful. Like a quiet town. We're right by the beach, and it's just low key. It's nice. I think it'd be just a circus with Triple C, and not to mention, like I already beat him and fought him, and the goal is to win a title, not to beat a guy that you've already beat. Like that's the last thing you want to do, honestly. I mean, the only thing that's appealing to him is the title, not him. So, it's always been about the title, not necessarily fighting him again. So, I think it'd be, harder if it was DJ or something, or someone that beat me, and it's like, I'm never gonna beat them, but at least I'm getting the title opportunity. I already beat the guy, and it was up to him to not come and try to avenge a loss and not put up a fight and go do something else. So yeah, so it's easy with me knowing I already have a win over him.
How do you feel this UFC title solidifies your spot in the UFC Hall of Fame? And does that matter to you?
Yeah, I mean that's a huge accomplishment and goal. I'd like to be in the Hall of Fame in that regard. Like as a competitor, that's why you start winning. You want to win the world title. You want to be the best ever to do it. You want people to talk about you years after. You want to be enshrined on a plaque that people can see time after and be like, dang, that guy was amazing. I love watching that guy. Just the simplest things like that. Like, is that the most important thing? No, but like as a competitor, it is. The competitive side of me, the time I put in to this and the, big portion of my life I've dedicated to it. Like, yeah, of course, like that. Those accomplishments mean a ton.
Do you think you get in with or without the title?
I don't know their protocol, but hopefully, yeah, maybe, yeah.
What do you see your title reign looking like? What kind of champion do you want to be?
It's gonna sound crazy, but I don't even like want to fight anyone at like another weight class or like another gender or anything like that. Like I just want to fight the next best guy in my division. So I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, I just believe in that, and fighting the next best guy in this division that I've been in since the start. I think more people should do that, and it's really hard to execute the 2 weight class double champion stuff without, like, I felt kind of the wrath of, how people and their wait time and their, career can kind of be on hold, for one person. So yeah, I just want to keep building my division and keep going there, find the next best guy. I know it doesn't make sense, I know. But yeah, but yeah, that's what I want to do. And then just important, just be the same me that I was that got me there, as far as like a reign goes. Like, what else can you do? Everything doesn't change, you feel more accomplished, and there's a lot to attain and hold up to, but I feel like I've been doing that and living that way my whole career anyway.
All right, so there's Jospeh Benavidez. Listen, I think that Jospeh Benavidez is in a good mental headspace right now, man. Like hearing how calm he is, hearing how relaxed he is, talking about the fact that there isn't the circus of like a Henry Cejudo fight, man. I think that's really, really good for Jospeh Benavidez. I don't think he necessarily loves, as great as he is with media and as awesome as he is in talking to us all, like I don't think he necessarily digs being, all up in the spotlight and on a big dais and trying to sell a big show out of things or whatever. I think he just wants to fight and wants to prove that he's the best in the world. And a situation like this is a good one for him, man. I think he's in a good spot. I do think he's going against a very dangerous opponent, and I think he realizes it. I think Jospeh is the better fighter overall, but Deiveson is dangerous, and that makes this a dangerous fight. So I'm intrigued by the matchup. Inside, I guess I'll be pulling for the good guy, Jospeh Benavidez, and I think Jospeh Benavidez is the better fighter. But I will caution you, if you have not watched Deiveson Figueiredo fight up to this point, this dude is dangerous. He is capable of knocking anybody out.
He's a lot of power, a lot of speed, and there's something about these Brazilians, man, when they get a chance to get the strap, man, they go Super Saiyan or something, which you probably don't know what that is.
I don't, but I understand the gist of what it's supposed to mean.
It's pretty incredible, but especially, coming from a place of hunger, real hunger and poverty and humble beginnings, and having that chance, knowing that you could change your life. Not that this doesn't mean any less to Joe B and what it can change for his life, but Joe leads a pretty comfortable life and has probably had for most of his life a pretty comfortable life. Something about some of these Brazilians and some of these fighters that come from some other portions of the world, this is completely life-altering and enough to where you could pretty much change a generation of their families, and what this means to them and what the effort that they put at these moments. You can never discount them. When we go to Brazil and some of these big fights, knowing what it means for them to fight in front of their friends and family, I almost never pick against a Brazilian in Brazil just because of these big moments. They always choose to shine. And this, I love Joby. I love Megan. Love them, respect them. In my heart of hearts, I want them to win. But I know that this is probably one of the toughest fights that Joby's ever faced. And that's coming from a guy that beat Cejudo. And this is coming from a guy that did really darn well against Demetrius.
I agree.
This is a Joby that's been injured, coming back from an injury. He's an older fighter. Not saying that he's an old fighter, but this is a fighter that's been around for a long time against a hungry individual he's extremely quick and he's extremely powerful. This is a very, very dangerous fight.
I agree. I agree. I probably don't give Dan Tom enough love on this show, man. Dan Tom grinds behind the scenes, and by the way, shout out to Dan Tom. He's dealing with some family issues himself as of lately that he's had to go through, but he's still putting in the work, still studying tape. The guy breaks down tape, really puts in the hours. And I was editing his breakdown this week. And, man, I thought he summed this up perfect. Now, I should probably tell you to go click on it on MMA Junkie because I'm going to give away his conclusion anyway. So if you can go click on it just as a favor, that'd be great.
Click on it really quick before he says this.
Yeah, just so my boss doesn't know that I totally gave away things. But here's what he wrote here, and I think this is phenomenal. He says, he concludes, and Dan Tom's breakdowns are phenomenal. He breaks down, the strength areas, the weakness areas, all that. I mean, he breaks it all down, but then he comes to a conclusion. And here's what he said. He said, although I have an admitted bias toward Benavidez, who is the pick here, I've always been high on the potential prospects of Figueiredo. The Brazilian dark horse has athleticism and power that's hard to match at 125 pounds, as none of us should be really surprised if he's able to knock Benavidez stiff off of an ill-timed slip or shift to Figueiredo's power side. That said, there's ultimately too much going on the other way on paper for me to side with the underdog. Figueiredo isn't the best when it comes to the checking leg or calf kicks, and despite working the body himself, his traditional approach of head movement still leaves him available to the midsection. Add in the fact that the Brazilian cuts a ton of weight to make the flyweight limit, and I suspect that Benavidez' persistent pace and body work will pay dividends down the stretch of a 5-round fight. The pick is for Benavidez to score stoppage via strikes late into the 3rd round. So I just love it because I think he just put it into a much more concise and direct statement than I have, that I believe Jospeh Benavidez is the better fighter. I believe Jospeh Benavidez should win this fight. He has more tools available to him. But man, that power and that can change a fight in a minute, that in a moment rather, is so dangerous. It's so dangerous, and this dude is legitimately, to me, the scariest dude at 125 pounds. I think he's the scariest
yeah.
guy at 125.
Yeah.
So I'm excited by this one.
Yeah, it's interesting. Third sounds still a bit early, because when you think late in the third, I mean, you almost think that Davidson would have to be a little bit depleted and more tired. And these flyweights, they don't get tired by the third. Maybe in the fifth. I think you'll start seeing some chinks in the armor. Maybe even the fourth, depending on the pace.
Right.
If he's swinging nonstop and if they're just going right at it, up against the cage, constantly clinching and maybe trying some takedowns or something. I don't know, man. Third seems a bit early for me. I could see that happen. I could see if Joe's going to get caught, I think it would happen early in the second or the third. But I see this probably going closer to probably a decision in the fifth.
Very well made. By the way, the odds, Jospeh Benavidez, as of right now, a -140. Deiveson Figueiredo, a +120. So
pretty close.
Slight favorite. Yeah, slight favorite.
Yeah, pretty close. Boy, it is a good one. I mean, I think a lot of people, I mean, they're gonna see Joby, and if they don't know Deiveson, they're gonna be like, oh, of course, Joby's got it. But this could quickly go another way. If Joe makes a mistake, this is the guy that can make him pay.
There's tension.
Yeah,
there's tension. Listen, outside of this, there's a lot of There's two fights, but they're both on the main card in the women's featherweight division. Zara Farron versus Felicia Spencer, Megan Anderson versus Norma Dumont. Listen, to me, Felicia Spencer is the best of those four. She's going to be looking to potentially earn a title shot. Man, beating Amanda Nunes right now is no easy task. Felicia Spencer gave Chris Cyborg a pretty good fight. She at least showed her durability. I think Felicia Spencer is a potential future UFC featherweight champion. I think she will have the belt at some time. I don't know if it's as long as Amanda Nunes is around and is willing to defend it. I mean, or at least as long as she's in her prime. You know what I mean? Maybe Amanda Nunes will, fade off at some point in her career. But to me right now, Amanda is on a different level.
Yep.
But out of those four, I do believe that Felicia Spencer is the best, and I do believe she has the best chance to be a champ. So it's, I don't know. It's the women's featherweight division, especially with Cyborg leaving. I mean, we said it before. I think you can make an argument that Bellator has the more meaningful women's 145-pound division. So I'm not trying to, berate these ladies whatsoever. I'm having a hard time, especially with Cyborg's departure and the lack of really developing this division. I'm having a hard time getting excited about fights because I don't know that they're really going anywhere. You know what I mean? I hate to say that, but I feel like the UFC hasn't done as much to invest in their 145-pound division as Bellator has.
I agree. And they certainly, I mean, Felicia's one of those ones, I think, especially after, if you haven't seen the fight and you go back and watch the fight with Cyborg, this is this one people are looking at, they're like, oh, she looks young and cute, almost like she's still carrying around the baby fat. She's just going to get destroyed by Cyborg. And she was as tough as can be and was giving every bit back to Cyborg and lost in that. It was a close decision. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, she showed a lot of heart. And you're right. I think in terms of the four that you listed, in terms of still having a high ceiling that can still go higher and where she's at, she definitely seems to have the most room to grow and go forward. I was listening to the interview of her opponent coming in, and I thought her opponent was absolutely adorable. She was speaking French the whole time. At the end, she starts speaking in English, and I was like, oh, she's so cute. I'm like, oh, I kind of want her to win, but it's like she's going against probably the number one contender, should be a number one contender in that division. But the other fight as well, I mean, Megan Anderson and Norma Dumont, that gets my you got to watch that fight award for this event.
Cold Coffee's technical analysis.
That I don't even need to talk about technical details. Just look at the thumbnails, folks, and all you fellas. That's the fight to watch.
Oh my goodness!
But
funny.
No, it should be fun. But you're right. I think the UFC doesn't do a great job of sticking with building the women's divisions overall. They loved it when the world was clamoring to get more and more Ronda. Then after that point, they've just kind of have faltered in finding somebody that's been able to fit that mold. Because it wasn't like even with Ronda that they were like, all right, we're going to redefine, you're going to whatever. They just exposed her, and people just absolutely fell in love with her.
Yeah.
And then it just became easy. Then it was just a matter of Ronda went out and she'd give a little sort of side smile, a little wink every once in a while, and people were like, oh, absolutely love this girl. And she was just literally dominating people. The fact that people aren't doing that for Amanda, who is so much more technically sound and a better overall fighter, part of it probably doesn't help that they don't see her. She's not like this American that has grown up with this American story, so it's not like they're like, oh, she's one of ours, maybe there's something there where they're just not clamoring to it. But
well, and I know a lot of people said, why don't they market her as the first openly gay, champion? She doesn't want that.
She doesn't want that.
And so I think that always needs to be said, because I see it over and over where they're like, the UFC's dropping the ball. They've got this gift on the table. They can market her to all these lesbian organizations and, these gay, awareness.
Yeah.
She has made it clear, I do not want to be that face of that.
Which is fair.
Which is totally fair.
I want to be a fighter. I don't want to be known as
the gay fighter.
The gay fighter.
Right.
I want to just be the champion.
Right.
The fighter. Let my fighting speak for itself. And if it happens to come up that I'm getting ready to start a family with my girlfriend, hey, it comes up. But let's not make a fucking episode of Embedded all about our love story.
Right.
I don't want that. And I don't want to see that from a heterosexual couple in there as well. Enough when I like Joby and I like Megan, so I'm like, okay, I like it when they show them together. But if it wasn't people that I actually respected and liked, I wouldn't want to see it.
Right.
I
don't
kind
of different
care
because they're
about
both
the
involved in the
relationship
industry,
side.
right?
Yeah.
I guess you could say the same for Amanda, because obviously her, girlfriend is
Her
or
girlfriend's a
fiance
fighter
at this
as well.
point, a fighter
Yeah.
as well. So
It's-
they're not married yet, are they? Fiance still, I think.
No, I think she's still fiance.
Fiance,
Yeah.
I think so too.
But yeah, it's tough. It's tough because Ronda made it seem so easy for them that I think they thought that they could just kind of slap a few things together and it would just work again, and they realize it doesn't work that way. And Felicia, I think, is one of these ones that if she keeps winning and keeps putting on good performance, she has that it factor. Same with Mackenzie Dern is another one of those ones that has just sort of it factor that people either love them or hate them, but they're just drawn. Some people just have that sort of magnetic personality.
Well, I was going to say, because you think about the marketing, the women's divisions. I think the most popular women's division right now would be strawweight. But you had such strong personalities. Yeah. You had Joanna Jacek. You had Rose Namajunas, and then now
Paige
of course
Van Zandt.
Now you've got of course Zhang Weili, who may not be a strong personality, but has a great fighting style and does have the China thing, which is big. The first one
She's
from
an incredible
a nation
fighter,
like that.
but people, it's tough because we've even seen this with great Brazilian fighters. Other one, people are just they just want them to speak English, and unfortunately, with this being an international sport and with having fighters from all around the world, we can't expect everybody. So it's like it. But I also can't.
I think that helped. I think that helped with Zhang too, where it's just a silly little line, but my name is Zhang Weili, remember me, or I'm from China. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that made her a little bit stand out.
It's just tough because I think same with Cowboy. People know his story. Cowboy goes up and he says some of these things that just really resonate, and until we hear some of this stuff from fighters, it's hard for people to really hook into them. And no matter if they say the most profound thing, if it's coming through a translator, it doesn't sound the same, and people just don't associate it with that fighter.
It's why I'm not playing audio from Devison Figueiredo right now. No disrespect. I like Devison. We sit here and bragged about how great he is.
Yeah.
But it's just audio through a translator. Who we were told by people on the ground wasn't even doing a good job. So it's what's even the point of it? These are just some made-up words that the translator made.
Yeah. So I guess it's tough in that sense where some of these great fighters in the women's divisions are not U.S.-based fighters, and maybe that doesn't help. But I don't know. It's just tough too, and it's unfortunate because I still every once in a while I'll hear the ignorant people that I like to call ignorant because they just drive me crazy. They're just I just don't like women fighting. Mm-hmm. I just can't get into it. It's not as fun to watch, But then you'll see some fights like that Angela Hill fight from, was it last event or the event before that? I thought was absolutely fantastic. How could anybody watch that fight and be like, oh, this is not a good fight because it's two women fighting?
Yeah, no, that ship has sailed, man. That ship has sailed.
It's ridiculous.
I would think.
I would think it would sail, but you still hear it. I still hear it. I still see the comments. And, YouTube's just the
Oh, it's a cesspool, bro.
it's so bad.
It's a cesspool.
Yeah, enough said there. I don't even need to.
All right, listen. I will say this: the one that does get me excited. So, like I said, I'm not disrespecting any of those women. I'm just saying it's hard for me to get excited for the fights because I don't feel like the division is built real well. So I'll watch them. And like I said, I think Felicia Spencer's the best out of the four. But I just don't get excited because I don't stakes, man.
It is cool they're on the main card.
It is cool that they're both on the main card, and so
cool.
I guess maybe this is a commitment to starting to develop the division or something.
It's co-main event and the it's not the first of the main card. That's pretty darn cool.
It's good.
There's 5 fights on the main card.
All right,
and 2 of them are the ladies.
The one that excites me though, Magomed Ankalaev versus Ian Cutelaba, is going to be absolutely ridiculous. It's going to be bonkers. Those two dudes are tanks of human beings, man.
Yeah.
Ian Cutelaba, especially, man, his intensity.
He should be a Marvel character.
Oh my god, that's
one of those
great.
One of those
absolutely.
like Marvel characters or something. He's a good-looking dude, but he is like chiseled like that metal guy that's like one of the X-Men. I don't know what his name is, but he looks like that giant metal dude. And he's gone out there as like the Hulk, like all grained up before, and you kind of believe it when you see it.
It's funny. He's the dude that does the green paint. If we're not sure who you're talking about, it's Ian Cutelaba, 26 years old. Like I said, just powerful, chiseled, scary, dangerous. Now, he will gas. He is wild, and he
carries
will
a lot
make
of
mistakes.
muscle, and he throws a lot of punches.
Yes.
But go back and watch. If you're looking to fight, just go back and watch the Khalil Roundtree fight. I thought he looked absolutely fantastic.
Scary.
It was super impressive.
Now, meanwhile, Magomed Ankalaev, if you remember him, he had the infamous UFC debut. Remember where he is the guy that Paul Craig got the last second submission against. I mean, he was whipping
4:59 of round 3.
He was whipping Paul Craig's ass over the course of 14 minutes and 59 seconds. And tapped out due to a triangle choke with 1 second left. But that is his only loss to date. He's won 3 in a row since then. Not necessarily against top names, but last time out it was Dalcha Lukablula, that scary dude, Dalcha champion. He beat him. So this is a guy. This is going to be, I think, a key fight. We're starting to see this kind of. I guess this next wave of 205ers. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, these guys aren't fast tracking, the Johnny Walker route or whatever. These guys aren't on the, number 1 contender list. But we're starting to see that next generation of light heavyweights that are going to be around for a while. And I think this is a big fight there. So I am very, very intrigued by this one. Ankalaev is actually the favorite here in this one, minus 220, so a little bit over a 2-1 favorite.
Interesting.
But that to me is the class of the main card.
That's gonna be a good one.
That to me is something crazy is going to happen in that fight. The prelims, a couple names stand out. I will say Tom Breese. I'm not there this week to talk to him, and Tom Breese is not necessarily the best interview. He's pretty quiet overall. He's very just I don't know if he's shy necessarily, but he just doesn't like to talk a lot. But he is just one of the most interesting characters to me because he's dealt with, and I don't know that he necessarily likes talking about it much, but he's had panic attacks. I mean, he's lost a couple fights on the day of the fight. Because he's been ruled medically ineligible to compete because of basically panic attacks.
Interesting.
But he continues to chase after this dream. I mean, it would be easy, I think, for him to hang it up and be like, "Man, this is not for me." But he continues to chase after it. So I'm really, really intrigued by him as a human being, man. Just the kind of torture, I guess, mentally that this sport is for him, and yet he continues to push forward and try to succeed at it. So. I'll be definitely watching him. Luis Pena, of course, you gotta keep an eye on him every time he fights. I mean, the violent Bob Ross, dude. That's just, I don't know if there's a better nickname.
It's pretty awesome
in the sport, and clearly he has earned it. I will also be watching Sean Brady. Sean Brady, a Cage Fury vet, undefeated record. Comes from Cage Fury, which is just a phenomenal regional promotion out there on the East Coast with an incredible broadcast team of John Morgan, CM Punk, and Jessica Penne. They do just, I just want to say they do fantastic work out there. So, no, I'll be keeping an eye on Sean Brady, but listen, he's got an incredibly tough matchup as well. I'm really high on Ismail Nardiev as well, the Austrian Wonder Boy. This dude is tough. Again, another one that has been on the prelims, has been fighting on some of the foreign cards you might not have seen, and this is the first card, or the first fight of the night, I should say. but I'm definitely keeping an eye on that one. And then Spike Carlisle versus Elon Cruz. I'll be watching that one as well. Spike Carlisle, talking about great nicknames. He is the Alpha Ginger, stepping in here to make his UFC debut against Cruz, who had a phenomenal entry into the UFC by a flying knee knockout on Dana White's Contender Series this past July. So a couple fights there that I'll be watching on the prelims. And, of course, we will wrap it all up with an and a half episode that will be on patreon.com/MMA Roadshow. Anything on there that you're most excited about? Main card, prelim card, anything like that that gets the cold coffee seal of approval?
Besides my
yeah. Besides
fight,
that one, you freak.
Besides that one, the ones you mentioned have been good. Even the Marcin Tybura fight.
Tybura's good. He's been out here training at Syndicate, actually. Has he really? Yeah, he's been out here training at Syndicate.
Is this his first fight at Syndicate?
I think so, because I don't remember him being there before.
I don't remember him being there before either.
Yeah.
So that should be an interesting one. Pena fight, I mean, that's always going to be a good one. The Dawson fight's going to be good. Of course, that fight I'm super excited about. But yeah, it really is that main event for me. I'm just so super stoked. I mean, it's a decent card. I think
it's going to be some competitive matchups. There's not a lot of big names.
I was going to say this is one of those cards where I think people on the undercard and the prelims have a decent performance. This could be one of those fights when somebody's like, "Who is that guy?" Because a lot of these names, they're not names
I agree.
that you know. Like, I had to take double takes, and then I'm looking at picks. I'm like, oh, okay, that's that guy.
This is one you could probably you want to catch the title fight live. I think you definitely want to catch the title fight live.
Yeah, you want to make sure. Well,
the rest,
you want to turn in for the main card.
Right.
But I mean, if you can catch the last bit of the prelims, you're doing pretty good. But even if you sort of put the prelims on while you're making dinner, while you're doing something else.
Catch them later, then that way you can fast forward. You can fast forward through all the filler content and all that.
Yeah.
But those are the names I'm looking out for if that helps you out. But keep an eye on Sean Brady, Ishmael Nardiev. Keep an eye on that Carlisle Cruz fight, and then like I said, Luis Pena is going to be there. So there's things, and again, Breeze. Hopefully everything goes okay with him because like I said, he's lost fights. I don't want to curse him. Knock on wood. He's lost fights day of.
Yeah, this is like one of those cards where a lot of the fighters are working to kind of get their name and to sort of start working towards the middle to the, I don't want to say the top of the division. This is like one of those cards where this is where a fighter, if they have a good performance, maybe they get on a prelim of like a pay-per-view.
Mm-hmm.
If they do really, really well on one of these sort of things, that's what some of these particular cards, these are those ones to sort of see how they fight. And then if they do decently well, and if they sort of traction well, the UFC will. These are the kind of ones that they can consider. Like maybe if they do really well, maybe we can work them into one of those cards.
These are people trying to get their names recognized, no question about it. All right, listen, I want to give you something outside of the UFC to think about. Titan FC 59 is Friday night. It is on UFC Fight Pass. And why am I shouting that out? Well, I got a personal connection to this one.
Why are you shouting that one out?
Well, I got a personal connection to this one. Well, first of all, I used to be on the Titan FC broadcast. That was years and years ago. Me and Kamaru Usman actually were a broadcast team together, which was fun. But no, listen. So my son, people that know me know my son does jiu-jitsu. Had been training for the last year under Roxanne Modafferi at Syndicate, and he was basically aging out of her class. She teaches the little kids, and she is phenomenal, man. If you're in the Las Vegas area and you've got a kid that is thinking about jiu-jitsu and Syndicate is anywhere close to you, go do it. Sign up. She is phenomenal, man. She will make your kid fall in love with grappling, man. She is so fun, and her dedication and love for the sport is phenomenal. But she was basically she teaches the 4 to 7 year olds, and my son's about to turn 8. He was aging out of class, so we were looking for a change, just to try something different.
8.
I know, it's crazy. Time flies,
right? Oh, my God, he's getting old.
Time flies. So we were looking for a change. And that's when I noticed that Max Rohskopf was teaching the kids' classes at Drysdale, Mixed Martial Arts, Zenith Jiu-Jitsu. And Max Rohskopf, I had called a couple of his fights, at Final Fight Championship here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He is a top talent, man. A really high on the list. Well recognized. He's a decorated collegiate wrestler, and now he's becoming phenomenal at jiu-jitsu as well under the tutelage of Robert Drysdale. I was very impressed by his skills when I saw him fight at Final Fight Championship. He also filled in for a week one time at Extreme Couture and taught the kids classes for a week when one of the regular coaches was on vacation. And I just really love the way he taught class, and so to have the opportunity to go and have my son train under him, I thought would be worth it. And so we've been there since the start of the year, basically, and my kids really enjoying being over there now. And he fights on Friday night, Titan FC, undefeated prospect. This is his first fight for Titan Fighting Championship, his first fight on UFC Fight Pass. So you might not know the name, but I wanted to give it to you early. Like I said, I got a little bit of a personal connection here. He's my kid's jiu-jitsu coach as well. But I think this is a name that you're going to be hearing about in the future. Our own Nolan King did peg him as one of 20 fighters who might be a star in the 20s. Something that we did for end of decade content. And he's somebody you can watch on UFC Fight Pass. So I thought you might want to hear a few minutes from Max. So this is Max Rohskopf.
All right, so still a few days out from the fight, but it is fight week. I mean, when do the emotions, the excitement? I mean, you're pretty laid back and relaxed right now. So when does if it's tension, if it's excitement, if it's nerves, when does that all kick in for you?
Probably have had the nerves there for probably about a week now, but I've competed for so long, I know what I have to do to kind of where I need to suppress what nerve, what emotion, and what I need to just kind of let go. Always a little nervous energy makes you, I think, stronger and sharper. So I got a little bit of nervous energy, but I'm kind of relaxed and just ready to go.
Nice. It's been about 5 months since you fought last. Give me an idea. What's kind of been the focus been during that time? I mean, I know there was some situations with where you were going to fight that you had to work through and all that, but what's the focus been on you as far as your development?
Yeah, so I had a little bit of a injury in December. And then so I was trying to fight again in December, and then I wasn't able to. I didn't have a fight schedule or anything, but that was what I was kind of targeting, and then I kind of got a little bit of an injury. So I was still training, but I wasn't training ready for a fight yet. So took some time, got a little bit healthy, and then pretty much just the same thing. I'm always focusing on just getting my overall game better, my stand-up, my jiu-jitsu, still getting better at my wrestling, and strategy as far as implementing all those together in a different way.
Nice. And this is the first camp you've done with Robert Drysdale as kind of the chief and the whole instructor. How has that changed things for you?
So for my last 3 fights, he's been kind of my main head coach, but this is the first camp I've done pretty much 100% out of Drysdale Jiu-Jitsu, and then with Zenith MMA, and we started our own little kind of team here. I got a good group of guys that are young up-and-comers that remind me a lot about myself, so I'm excited to be a part of their journey as well. So there's still a couple of them are amateurs, Joey McKay and Orlando Sanders, both guys you're going to have to watch out for.
Nice. You're signed with Titan now. I mean, it's a big regional brand, obviously. It's on UFC Fight Pass, so I think that might be some more eyeballs. I mean, does this feel like a step up or a step forward? I
don't know what the numbers are. I don't know how many people will be watching, but I've wrestled in front of 20, 30,000 people before where – I think at Iowa Carver Hawkeye Arena, it's guys it's a bunch of hillbillies just telling me I'm too pretty to wrestle and shit, and it's like all the eyeballs are on me because it's at the dual meet or whatever. So it's not something I'm not used to, and I've always, at least when I'm in wrestling and jiu-jitsu, I've always performed a little bit better under pressure.
Nice. I know you had a handful of fights kind of here at home in Las Vegas. Now you got to go on the road. I mean, does that add excitement to it? Does it add a different feel? Does it affect anything?
Yeah, I don't think it really affects anything. I think it affects timing. I could sit at home and play Xbox while I was cutting weight and stuff, and so now it's going to be a little bit different. But no, it doesn't really affect anything. I've traveled my whole life wrestling, so nothing different.
Nice. What do you know about the guy you're fighting? Not going to be a familiar name to a lot of people. Did you know anything about him when he was brought to the table?
They brought a couple people to the table, and I didn't really know any of them, and I don't really follow the regional scene all that much. And then once I told my manager knows I'll fight pretty much anyone at this point, especially because it's hard to find opponents in the first place. So it's like I'm not going to be pick and choosy either. And I've waited so long, I've been training for a long time before I even took a professional fight. So I'm in a position where I'm comfortable with anyone. I'm not trying to pick and choose. But no, I didn't really know anything about him, and then I still really don't. There's not a lot of film. He hasn't been super active. but I think he comes from a good camp, and I'm going to be expecting a tough motherfucker on Friday.
You know, you've had some hype around you early in your career, but I feel like now it's been even more. I mean, you know, hell, we published a list, 20 guys who could be a star in the 20s, and I feel like there's more lists. I mean, what does that do? Does that add excitement? Does it add pressure, responsibility? I mean, when you see that, like, there's people paying attention and saying they expect these things out of you, what does that do for you?
Man, it's about fucking time, I think. I think I've been working too hard for too long. A lot of setbacks, a lot of stuff like that. So I think, to me, it's just about time. And I think I want to, like, the expectations that are there, I want to shatter those, because I think I'm always shooting for the stars. And if I don't reach it, then it's fine. But that's, it puts a little bit of pressure, but it's like the good pressure that, like, kind of gets me excited.
Nice. I know you'd like to be in the UFC, like, maybe even before year's end. I mean, do you feel that's possible? Like, what's it going to take? What do you think? I mean, is it you got to go out there and you got to, get spectacular results? Is it just get wins? I mean, what do you think it's going to take to get you to the UFC?
Hit some slick shit and say some slick shit on the mic too, probably. I don't know. I haven't had conversations with anyone from the UFC. I know a lot of the media members, a lot of people, a lot of my friends over at Extreme Couture, and then all my coaches here and my management have all talked to them, and I know they know about me, but it's going to just be a matter of time of when they want me. But I'm ready right now, this second.
Nice. I know that you touched on it there. I mean, the fight game, you got to win and you got to look good, right? But I mean, you're the rated R superstar, right? I mean, you embrace the entertainment side of it too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, were you like a pro wrestling fan growing up, or is this something that you've seen in MMA? Like, what's your take on being kind of a personality as well?
I was a pro wrestling fan growing up, but then also, like, if you come and see me train, and especially like some of the guys, the amateurs I mentioned earlier, they're kind of shy a little bit, and they're like, oh, they're 20, 21, 22, and I'm always talking shit and like messing around and like having a good time and stuff. And that's just how I like to be. I don't like to censor myself, because that's just not who I am. And just where I grew up, it's just like we just grew up talking shit and having fun, fighting, wrestling, doing all that stuff. So I think if it wasn't like part of who I was, and I was it would look fake and I wouldn't do it. I'm just really just having fun, and I think I'm just an entertaining guy in the first place. You come and watch me train, hang out with me, you'll see it. But definitely isn't something I'm trying to do because of the results of it. I think if you do that, it kind of just looks cheesy, corny, and fake.
No doubt about it. All right, so for a lot of people, man, it'll probably be the first time they get a chance to watch you fight, being on Fight Pass. So if they haven't seen you, how would you describe your style? I mean, what kind of fighter are you?
Hit, don't get hit. I think I have 4 fights. I've been hit once with an elbow in the clinch, and then that was it. If you watch me wrestle, jiu-jitsu, or fighting, I have a very odd grappling style. I want to say I have good fundamentals, but I can get submissions that I haven't even practiced before. Like if I see it, I can get it. And I've also shown some of my fights I have some heavy hands too. I don't want to try not to want to show that too much, but I do have them, and then maybe see something you've never seen out of a wrestler before.
Nice. Another goal, like I said, is to get to the UFC, hopefully as soon as this year. I mean, this could be a big step in that direction. So, I mean, when you play this one out in your head, how do you see this one going? How do you see yourself getting your hand raised? Is it going to be some kind of battle where you do get tested on the step up, or do you think you can go out there and do something dominant?
I'm always going to be looking for the finish, but I'm also very patient. I think for having only 4 fights, when I go in, I'm not having a game plan for anything specific or anything. I'm reading and reacting. I'm going to try to find where the person's the weakest and attack that.
All right, so there you go. Max Rohskopf fighting at Titan SC 59. Check that out Friday night on UFC Fight Pass. By the way, I'll be on UFC Fight Pass March 21st. So let's go ahead and circle your calendar for that right now. CFFC. It's actually going to be a cool day. I think UFC London.
You don't get paid extra if you get more people to tune in.
No, but
that would be fun, though.
It would be cool, but I want people to watch.
Like, if they could have a way to track it and they would throw you a bone.
Get a little bonus or something?
Yeah, if they're like, when you watch it, you use the code Frosty.
That'd That'd be great. But I think that's gonna be a fun day because I think UFC London is during the day, and then CFFC is at night. So you get a full day of fights. I gotta see how the schedule works out. That's gonna be a tough one to squeeze in the and a half. Maybe I could do it before my broadcast. I'm not sure. We'll see how the schedule works out. But anyway, that's March 21st. We got plenty of time till then. But I'm just saying, get it on your calendar. Make sure it's appointment viewing.
It is. It's important.
One championship is Friday morning. I think by the time most people listen to this, that'll already be in the books. Like I said, Titan SC Friday night, UFC on ESPN Plus 27 on Saturday. We will have a wrap-up of that, an and a half episode on patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. Otherwise, like I said, the young Mike Bond is out there in Norfolk, and we'll be bringing you coverage from on the ground. In the meantime, I just want to have a few more frosty beverages and enjoy the rest of this beautiful day.
Yeah.
So we'll bid adios to everybody and just say thanks for listening.